All right, folks, welcome to N3 Primetime. Angie here bringing you the news we've been tracking all day. First, a snapshot from New Hampshire has the internet buzzing, sparking the babies for Trump trend. But what did the former president have to say about a 2024 global conflicts? Then, as rockets soar over Tel Aviv, what's the Biden administration's move amidst the escalating Middle East chaos? Speaking of controversy, Hillary Clinton's recent Columbia event did not go as planned, as questions about her silence took center stage. In legal news, Trump's defense goes on the offensive, challenging the charges from the Capitol riot saga. And finally, Mark Meadows grabs headlines with immunity deals and powerful testimonies. Later on, don't miss our comment section where we dive into what you have to say and our special Looking at You segment spotlighting someone making waves. Stay tuned. Over to you, Gary.
Good evening and welcome to N3 Primetime. We're dedicated to bringing you the stories that really hit home. Why? Because like you, we value the essence of our nation, the heartbeat of our homes, and the grit of hardworking Americans. Tonight we're diving deep into issues that make us question, where's our country headed? From border crises to political showdowns, from the Middle East tensions to our very own Constitution under trial. These stories matter because it's about your future, your safety, and your pocketbook. You know, it's a bit like planning for your financial future, not always certain, sometimes a bit rocky, just like the news stories tonight. You'd want to know where you stand. Now, speaking of which, ever thought of taking control of that financial future? Noble Gold Investments get it. For many metals like gold and silver, it sounds like a maze, but with Noble Gold, it's like having a seasoned guide. Real customers have said, no pressure sales tactics, just honest guidance. And right now they're even offering a free 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coin for qualified accounts. Why gamble with uncertainty? Visit nextnewsgold.com, the only gold company that I trust. Angie, over to you. What have you got lined up for tonight's episode?
Tonight, we tackle the big topics making waves. First, a Rasmussen poll reveals the divided nation on accepting Palestinian refugees from Gaza. And with President Biden's recent trip to Israel, where do Americans really stand? In a surprising twist, Tyson Foods aims to put bugs on your plates. Is America ready for it? Biden's approval ratings are sliding according to the latest Harvard-Harris poll. We'll dive deep into where the president is falling short. Also, immigration under Biden takes center stage as new numbers roll in, painting a concerning picture. And lastly, Coca-Cola's support for BLM goes under the microscope as their website sees a mysterious change. Why does it all matter? Because these stories shape our world and your voice in it. Stay tuned. Gary, take it away with our first special report.
Ladies and gentlemen, in times of political divisiveness, sometimes the purest moments shine the brightest. Today I bring you a story that will warm the coldest of hearts and remind us all of the innocence that unites our great republic. From the heart of New Hampshire to the screens of millions, a simple gesture by President Trump has given the nation a moment to smile about. And if you stick around until the end, you're in for a revelation you don't want to miss. This is a special report you'll be talking about for days. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just like a small business wanting to be noticed in a vast marketplace, sometimes it's the smallest moments that have the most significant impact. And speaking of small businesses, attention to all patriot business owners out there. If you have a product or service the world needs to know about, imagine showcasing it to millions globally. By partnering with the Next News Network, you're not only amplifying your reach, but supporting our mission to restore our republic. So head to sponsораpatriot.com and let's unite our voices. Now, back to the story at hand. President Trump is no stranger to the spotlight, whether for his policies or the controversies that often surround him. However, it's these unforeseen moments that truly resonate with the people. Now, recently, during a visit to New Hampshire, the house there, Visitors Center, Trump was photographed with a baby girl. The heartwarming interaction was the spark that lit the social media wildfire, leading to Babies for Trump to trend. One might question the significance of such a trend. After all, these little supporters aren't voting, yet their genuine smiles and giggles have a unique way of bridging gaps. The infectious joy radiating from the photograph represents a sentiment beyond politics. It's a reflection of humanity. Let's take a look at that moment now.
Okay, everybody looking right here. Oh, she's loving it.
It's a very light baby.
So beautiful. Derry, New Hampshire witnessed Trump's magnetic charisma firsthand. An impressive 2,500 supporters gathered eagerly awaiting the president's words. They cheered, they chanted, and they reveled in his every remark. Trump's timely humor, referencing his ongoing legal battles, had the crowd roaring. Watch.
Thank you very much. Wow. That's a big crowd. That's a big crowd. Listen to that. They want change. They want change. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We've had a tremendous relationship with New Hampshire. It's just been incredible. And, you want change. That's what this is about. We got to get this government straightened out. There's never been anything like this.
As the anticipation in the room heightened, President Trump unleashed a series of remarks that left an indelible mark on the audience. First, he didn't hold back when addressing his political rival. With his typical flair and vigor, Trump directed sharp comments towards Biden, emphasizing what he perceives as the latter's shortcomings and drawing clear distinctions between their leadership styles. Want a first-hand view of this verbal exchange? Take a look.
Crooked Joe can't even walk up the children's stairs in Air Force One, Now, doesn't that look terrible? You see a man come out, you want to see a man walk out, or woman, walk off Air Force One, nice and high, wave to everybody. This guy goes through the little stairs. We call them the children's stairs. And now he's made it a common practice because he can't quite make it up or down. I think he has a bigger time making it up. Usually it's supposed to be easier. I don't know. Let's not even think about it. Or find his way off a stage. He can't find his way off a stage. You ever see makes a speech, if you call it that. Okay, thank you. And they're screaming at him. They're saying, no, you got there, you got there. I mean, he can make a bad speech, but you got to be able to see, you came in here. I can even go out there. I see there's an exit there, exit here. You got exits all over. It's unbelievable.
Shortly after, Trump shifted gears to a topic that's always been at the core of his political narrative, border security. He conveyed a stern message on the importance of fortified borders and the challenges posed by lax policies. This impassioned speech on border security showcases his unwavering stance on the issue. Let's watch.
A vote for President Trump is a vote to secure the border, and it's a vote to keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country. On day one, I will immediately restore and expand the Trump travel ban. Remember when they said, oh, that's so vicious, but it kept us safe.
In the midst of this political storm, Trump's confidence seems unshaken. He boldly predicted a sweeping victory against crooked Joe Biden come 2024. This wasn't just a passing comment, it was a declaration echoing his intent to reclaim the presidency. Here's the moment that he made the prediction. Watch.
Less than 4 months from now, we're going to win the New Hampshire primary, and third straight time. And we are going to defeat crooked Joe Biden. He's a crooked guy. Next November. And very simply, we're going to make America great again.
The international arena wasn't left untouched. Addressing the pressing issue of the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, Trump made a compelling promise. He assured the audience that upon his election win in 2024, he'd take definitive steps towards settling this horrible war. If you're curious about his strategy, here it is.
Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. Look, that's a war that would have never taken place. Putin would have never done it, It'll be done very.
Lastly, in a move that showcased his broader vision, Trump delved into global peace dynamics. He emphatically pledged his commitment to restoring peace and emphasized on the critical nature of averting a potential World War III. His intent was clear: to lead through strength and diplomacy. Witness his promise to restore global equilibrium right now.
To every American who's terrified that Crooked Joe's weakness will cause catastrophic global conflict. Excuse me, it already is. I make this promise to you as president. I will restore peace through strength, and we will stop World War III. We will not have World War III. And I know all the players. I know them all. I know them all. Because it was Joe Biden, with his weakness and what he did with Iran and others, that caused the attack on Israel.
Amidst the political fervor, Trump, with his signature humor, remarked on his ongoing indictments, claiming they only boost his popularity, adding, "I'm not scared of going to jail." The crowd erupted. Watch.
Those people have no problem. If you want to challenge the result of an election, they hound you. Look what happened this weekend with two good people. They hound them and they scare them but we don't get scared. We don't get scared. I'll tell you what, I don't mind being Nelson Mandela because I'm doing it for a reason. I'm doing it for a reason.
Yeah, not all voices echoed in support. Republican Liz Cheney, in a recent interview, labeled Trump as the single most dangerous threat to America and hinted at a potential presidential run herself. Watch.
What would a second Donald Trump term look like?
Well, he cannot be the next president because if he is, all of the things that he attempted to do but was stopped from doing by responsible people around him at the Department of Justice, at the White House counsel's office, all of those things he will do. There will be no guardrails. And everyone has been warned. After January 6th, after our investigation, after all of the evidence that we laid out about all of the steps in his multi-part plan to overturn the election, there can be no question that he will unravel the institutions of our democracy. So we are facing a moment in American politics where we have to set aside partisanship, and we have to make sure that people who believe in the Constitution are willing to come together to prevent him from ever again setting foot anywhere near the Oval Office.
But if it came down to it, even though you disagree with Joe Biden on almost every issue under the sun, other than maybe Ukraine and Israel, would you vote for him over Donald Trump?
We're going to see what happens. We're going to see how things unfold. I think Donald Trump is the single most dangerous threat we face. I would imagine that there will be a number of other candidates in the race.
Would you be one of them?
I'll tell you what I am definitely going to do. I'm going to spend the next year between now and the election certainly helping to elect serious people, helping to elect sane people to Congress.
Of both parties?
Yes.
Now, Trump, however, he did keep his focus, targeting the Biden administration's policies, suggesting the current leadership is a boon for extremists, and pointing out the Taliban's rising military strength. In an era when our republic is often torn by political division, sometimes it's the smallest gestures that have the largest impact. A simple, genuine moment between a leader and a child has given us all a chance to pause and reflect on what unites us. Beyond politics, controversies, and disputes, there's a shared humanity that remains our cornerstone. As Americans, these are the moments we cherish, for they remind us of the innocence and hope that fuels our nation's spirit. As you go about your day, remember this tender moment, and let it be a beacon of unity and promise in these challenging times. Over to Angie with an update on U.S. sentiments regarding Palestinian Gaza refugees.
A Rasmussen Report poll recently surveyed 992 likely U.S. voters about their stance on accepting Palestinian refugees from Gaza. The results, a notable 52% oppose the idea, while only 28% support it. 20% remain undecided. Digging deeper, political affiliations reveal clear divides among Democrats. 42% are in favor of accepting these refugees. However, Republicans show strong opposition, with 73% against, and even 50% of independents don't favor the idea. The narrative also touches on President Biden's trip to Israel. The country is divided here too. 42% believe it was fruitful, but 45% don't share that optimism. Dive deeper, tap the link below. Over to Gary now for a report on the latest Middle East developments. Gary?
In a world increasingly veering towards conflict, the Middle East has erupted once more, and the stakes have never been higher. Massive rocket assaults rock Tel Aviv, U.S. troops face unprecedented attacks, and our administration scrambles, preparing for potential mass evacuations. These events aren't just numbers and headlines, they're impacting real lives and shaping our world's political landscape. The question we're all asking, where is this leading, and what does it mean for the United States? You'll find those answers in this report, and don't turn away, because by the end of this special coverage, our final thought will shine a light on why every American in this great republic needs to stay informed and vigilant. The ground is shifting, and you need to be prepared. So folks, as we delve into these pivotal moments in history, remember that bringing these critical stories to you is possible because of the unwavering support of our sponsors. Their commitment empowers us to keep you updated, especially when world events threaten to destabilize economies. And speaking of stability, isn't it time you consider solidifying your financial future? Noble Gold Investments stands out as a beacon in uncertain times. Dive into the world of precious metals and receive a free 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful bullion coin with certain accounts. In the world of flux, trust in the steadfast. Visit nextnewsgold.com. Noble Gold, our gold standard in securing your future. Now on to our special report. Tel Aviv experienced chaos as Hamas launched a relentless rocket attack. Over 1 million Israelis were thrust into a life or death race to find shelter. This massive assault is among the most severe since the conflict escalated, with sirens sounding as far north as the Lebanon border. Israel's immediate response was decisive, targeting 3 terror cells and even a Hezbollah position in southern Lebanon. Let's take a look.
Yeah, it actually had been quiet here throughout the day in Tel Aviv, but just a few minutes ago, we had a flurry of rockets that was fired from the Gaza Strip over towards us. This was the most that I've seen the Iron Dome intercept in one single maneuver. We counted over half a dozen that were just intercepted a short while ago here. And Marnie, as I've pointed out on your show in the past, there is an app that you have that we have here in the country which shows where all of these are. It's a pretty dense map in terms of where all these missile strikes just took place. So just a constant reminder that this situation is far from settled here. People here in Israel, this is their new norm, and these are the constant dangers that people face on a consistent basis. Marnie?
But Tel Aviv isn't the only Israeli region under threat. Syria fired 2 rockets at Israel, both landing in open fields. In retaliation, the IDF launched attacks on Syrian military installations. This level of direct confrontation is rare, with the IDF openly admitting their strike against the Syrian radar site and the warehouse of the 12th Armored Brigade. You can see on the screen, this is the actual attack as it was happening. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is sounding the alarms, considering mass evacuations of Americans from the Middle East due to the intensifying Gaza violence. As Israeli forces backed by the U.S. brace for conflict against Hamas, fears over the safety of American citizens loom large. The primary focus right now is on the Americans in Israel and Lebanon, but everyone's hoping that this remains a contingency plan and not a necessity. Watch.
And that, so is the U.S. military really planning for possible evacuation of hundreds of Americans from the Middle East?
There's prudent planning, and then there's sort of the tactical level planning right before you execute. What we're talking about here is just prudent planning and thinking. There are no active efforts right now to evacuate Americans from the region. Other than what we're doing in Israel, providing charter flights. There's no active efforts. And we're not parking ships off the coast and getting ready to send Marines in to get people out of, you pick the place over there. That's not happening right now. But what was reported in the press is nothing more than prudent contingency planning. And as I said at the outset, given everything that's been going on the last 2 weeks, it would be irresponsible if we weren't taking pen to paper and taking a look at what that might look like. But there's been no orders given, nobody prepositioned to do it, no moving in that direction.
However, it's not just civilians who are in danger. U.S. troops stationed in the Middle East have faced 14 attacks in a week. Pentagon sources revealed these confrontations resulted in the injuries of 24 personnel. One of these, 11, took place in Iraq and 3 in Syria. While the Pentagon points fingers towards Iran, concrete evidence linking these attacks directly to the Iranian leadership remains elusive. Watch.
Now, we've also seen over the course of the last few days, actually the course of the last week, but certainly over the last couple of days of the weekend, an uptick in rocket and drone attacks by Iranian-backed proxy groups against military bases housing U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria. And we're deeply concerned about the potential for any significant escalation of these attacks in the days ahead. At the direction of President Biden, the Secretary of Defense has ordered the military to take steps to prepare for this, to ensure that we're postured appropriately, both in terms of being able to defend our forces and respond decisively as needed. The Secretary of Defense has directed 2 carrier strike groups to the region, and we are now sending more air defenses to U.S. air bases in the region. Now, we know these groups are supported by the IRGC and the regime. We know Iran continues to support Hamas and Hezbollah. And we know that Iran is closely monitoring these events and in some cases actively facilitating these attacks and spurring on others who may want to exploit the conflict for their own good or for that of Iran. We know Iran's goal is to maintain some level of deniability here, but we're not going to allow them to do that. We also are not going to allow any threat to our interest in the region to go unchallenged.
But these incidents aren't isolated. After a 6-month lull, Iranian-backed militias have mounted renewed attacks against U.S. forces in the Middle East. A particularly notable incident occurred at Iraq's Al-Assad air base. U.S. forces intercepted a militia drone, only for it to crash into and destroy an American drone. Yemen also isn't spared. Iranian-backed Houthis launched a significant assault on Israel with a myriad of drones and missiles, some of which were intercepted by the USS Carney and Saudi forces. Here's more on that.
Jake, the U.S. has intelligence that Iranian-backed militias in the Middle East, that would be Shiite groups in Iraq and Syria, are preparing for the possibility of escalating and ramping up the attacks they have carried out, according to multiple U.S. officials. And this would be as Iran looks to take advantage of the situation and the conflict in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, also taking advantage of the anti-Israel and anti-U.S. sentiment growing across the region. Now, Iran backs these groups, funds these groups, and arms these groups. The question now, how direct is this support? Officials say it's not that Iran is necessarily saying go carry out these attacks, but according to the officials, it appears that Iran is encouraging them and doing nothing to stop them. A far more direct link than U.S. officials believe Iran had with the initial October 7th terror attack carried out by Hamas. In that case, U.S. officials said Iran was surprised by the attack. Here, there is no surprise. There is a much clearer link that the U.S. is seeing, and it comes, as you pointed out, with a number of attacks that have taken place against U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria on the U.S. positions there.
With all these events transpiring, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken took to the global stage, issuing a firm warning to Iran addressing the UN Security Council. Blinken stated the U.S. resolve in responding to any attacks by Iran's proxies. The U.S. has also been asserting Iran's involvement in renewed assaults on coalition forces in Iraq. Watch.
Tell us what you know about the U.S. moving forces into the Middle East.
Well, that's right, Vincent, as you mentioned, with Secretary Lloyd Austin saying that he wanted to protect his forces. That's exactly what the U.S. military is doing. They sent out additional prepare to deploy orders for more U.S. troops. I've been told that number is still fluctuating while they're figuring out exactly who is going to prepare to deploy, but that number is fewer than 500, officials tell me. And that is in addition to a THAAD battery coming into the region and multiple Patriot batteries coming into the region for air defense. Why is there so much air defense coming in? Because we have seen attack after attack on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria, at least 5 in recent days, one of them occurring yesterday in Syria at Al-Tanf garrison. That's in southern Syria. There were drones launched, no injuries and no casualties in that attack. But there was an attack on Al-Tanf last week, and there were minor injuries during that attack.
So one may want to find out if officials have said what would be the reaction, say, if there's an attack next time, Iran.
Well, the Pentagon has said that they will reserve the right to defend their forces and to strike back at a time and a place of their choosing. But we're hearing concern after concern here in this building of a significant escalation to the fight that started October 7th when Hamas attacked Israel. But as things continue to spread and spread, the U.S. is coming into the region saying, do not make this a bigger regional attack. Iran, do not escalate this further, Hezbollah or the Houthis in Yemen. But as you see with some attacks, there have been some attacks from Hezbollah into Israel. There were the missiles fired from the Houthi rebels in Yemen that were struck down by the USS Carney. 4 of those missiles, I've been told, and multiple drones on top of that. There is this significant threat going on, and the U.S. wants to be prepared to defend its allies and partners in the region and to defend its forces if necessary.
The situation in the Middle East continues to heat up at an alarming rate as tensions mount between the U.S. and Iran. The Pentagon is making decisive moves. 2 carrier strike groups, a fleet of destroyers, cruisers, amphibious assault ships, advanced missile defense systems, and a formal Air Force presence are now being dispatched to the region. While the military deployments are a direct response to recent threats, the Pentagon is crystal clear in its stance. Any threat to U.S. troops by Iranian proxies will be met decisively. Over the past week alone, U.S. and coalition forces have been subjected to multiple targeted attacks, unmistakably backed by the IRGC and Iran's ruling regime. The big question looms: are we on the precipice of a full-blown war between the United States and Iran? Here's what the Pentagon had to say.
On October 17th and the 24th, U.S. and coalition forces have been attacked at least 10 separate times in Iraq and 3 separate times in Syria via a mix of one-way attack drones and rockets. So again, those are the initial numbers. We're continuing to work to CENTCOM to ensure we get you the facts on these.
These at least 13 attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria, do you believe that Iran is responsible for these? Were these all conducted by Iranian-backed proxies?
Well, I think we've been pretty clear on this, and my colleagues at the White House yesterday talked about this as well. We know that the groups conducting these attacks are supported by the IRGC and the Iranian regime. What we are seeing is the prospect for more significant escalation against U.S. forces and personnel across the region in the very near term, coming from Iranian proxy forces and ultimately from Iran. So by virtue of our announcement over the weekend, we are preparing for this escalation, both in terms of defending our forces and responding decisively. And I just want to emphasize the point that I made earlier, which is that we always reserve the right to defend ourselves, and we will never hesitate to take action when needed to protect our forces and our interests overseas. So to be clear, we have significant capabilities in the theater right now, right? I mean, you've got the Ford that's in the Eastern Mediterranean. You've got an expanded number of fighter aircraft throughout the region, in addition to the naval assets that are already in the Central Command, AOR. So there should be no confusion whether or not we have the ability to respond to any potential threats right now. The announcement over the weekend, as it highlighted, is intended to enhance those capabilities and sustain those capabilities for as long as we may need in order to continue to both deter and protect our troops. Since that Hamas terrorist attack, we've also been crystal clear that we do not want to see the situation in Israel widen into a broader regional conflict. And as you've heard President Biden, Secretary Austin, and other senior U.S. leaders say, our message to any country or group thinking about trying to take advantage of this situation to widen the conflict is don't. We've already deployed a significant number of additional U.S. military capabilities into the region to bolster our regional deterrence efforts, strengthen our capabilities there, and enhance our ability to respond to a range of contingencies. In addition to the capabilities that we've already announced, I can also confirm that the New Jersey Air National Guard's 119th Expeditionary Fighter Squadron arrived within U.S. Central Command's area of responsibility today, with additional F-16 Fighting Falcon Squadron, bolstering U.S. posture to deter further aggression in the region. Again, it is our aim to avoid any regional expansion of Israel's conflict with Hamas, but we stand ready and prepared to protect and defend our partners and our interests, and will act to do so. Finally, in terms of force protection, the message is simple. As Secretary Austin has consistently made clear, we will take all necessary measures to defend our troops and our interests overseas.
As the dust settles and the smoke lingers, it's clear the Middle East isn't just simmering, it's boiling over. The situation is escalating, and indicators suggest there's no immediate end in sight. Rockets in Tel Aviv, attacks on U.S. troops, and political chess games with nations like Iran showcase a region in turmoil. For us in our republic, it's not just about understanding global politics, but recognizing the profound implications they bear on our national security, our economy, and international relations. Every rocket launched and every life affected reverberates, shaping our future and testing our resilience. As we navigate these tumultuous waters, let's remember the shared human experiences behind every headline and statistic. The fate of the nation hangs in the balance, and so does our role in the unfolding narrative. Stay vigilant, America. The story is far from over. Angie's got the latest on Tyson's surprising shift. Angie?
We've got a big, or should I say bug curveball from Tyson Foods. They're teaming up with Protix, the Dutch bug protein bigwig. Tyson's not just dipping a toe either. They're investing money and are set to roll out an insect-based protein facility right here in the U.S. This move, a first, they plan to turn food waste into insect protein and fats. But who's this for? Mainly our pets, fish farms, and livestock. But there's chatter about this bug protein for human consumption too. Some claim it's rich in nutrients. But the million-dollar question, is America ready to put bugs on their menu? Or is this just another corporate gamble? Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. Gary has got a report on a moment that stunned many at Columbia. Gary?
Tonight, in a tale that's rocked our nation, we delve into an incident where the spotlight turned unforgiving for a seasoned politician. Inside the revered walls of Columbia University, Hillary Clinton, once touted as a master diplomat, faced a test. And the results? Well, they might not be what you expect. As tensions around the globe escalate, one brave individual dared to ask the question on everyone's mind. His courage versus her response? You won't believe until you see it. Stay with us for this special report, and trust me, you don't want to miss our final thought on just what this incident says about our political landscape. Now, folks, before we dive into Hillary's Columbia outburst, a quick shout out to our sponsors. They're the reason we bring you top-notch reports daily. Every time you support them, you're backing our mission. We trust their products because we've tried them. And speaking of trust, for those aiming to lose some weight, stepping on a scale is proven to help. And to accelerate the process, there is a natural solution that I have found. It helps manage weight and curb cravings. Right now, there's a 51% discount just for you at trimwithgary.com. And grab it now before it's gone. Now let's unravel today's story, shall we? Diving into the incident at Columbia University that's sending shockwaves across our nation, Hillary Clinton, once believed by some to be a paragon of diplomacy, severely faltered under pressure. During an event marking the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, her glaring inadequacy to tackle straightforward, crucial questions was embarrassingly evident. A brave individual embodying the concerns of countless Americans posed a fundamental question. Given her influential status, why hasn't Clinton publicly voiced her stance on the unmistakable foreign policy missteps under President Joe Biden? Let's take a stroll down memory lane. The America under President Trump's stewardship was a beacon of strength and assertiveness on the global stage. We witnessed the Middle East embarking on a potential peace journey. Russia, a perennial thorn in international affairs, was notably passive. Even China, the global behemoth, showed restraint without any overt signs of aggression. These weren't coincidental outcomes. They were the fruits of Trump's strategic foresight and unwavering commitment to American security. Now contrast this with the Biden era. Our brave questioner at Columbia astutely highlighted the stark contrast, stating, President Joe Biden is requesting a staggering $100 billion of funding for Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine. He further probed the logic behind such decisions, questioning, are we blindly barreling towards World War III? Letting influential figures like Hillary Clinton tacitly greenlight this direction? And rather than delivering a considered reply, or at the very least acknowledging the validity of his concerns, Clinton's response, to put it mildly, was less than stellar. The fiery retort, sit down! We've heard your opinion! Echoed not just within the confines of Columbia University, but throughout America. This wasn't the leadership or level-headedness the nation sought or indeed deserved. Watch.
Struck by the hypocrisy of the.
Two more people to hear from.
I'm sorry.
You have a chance. Well, I'm not sorry. You sit down.
I know you're not sorry. That's the point. The hypocrisy of this speech. The hypocrisy of the fact that what do you have? Can you please? Can you please make a statement about President Joe Biden's speech? This is a clearly warmongering speech. President Joe Biden is calling for $100 billion of funding for Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine, and we're supposed to just bundle these together and pretend like we're going to rush to World War III, and we're all just going to let Hillary Rodham Clinton sit here. Okay.
I'm sorry. You know, this is not the way to have a conversation.
I'm sorry.
If you want to have a conversation, you're welcome to come talk to me afterwards.
You can sit here. Okay, right. You're gonna wait for me, right? Please, I do not believe you.
And I will listen to you, and I will respond to you.
I do not believe you.
But
respectfully, I do not believe you.
Well,
and the fact of the matter is that the American people's voice are what need to be heard.
Yeah,
because,
they are being
because
heard.
our president is not speaking for the American people, and neither are you.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion.
Yes, that's my opinion.
Well, then sit down. We've heard your opinion. Thank you very much. Now we're going to
I'm
turn
not
to
going to
people
sit down.
who are
I'm
on
not
the
going to
front
stop.
lines
I'm not going to stop
working on behalf of human rights.
I'm going to exercise my free speech.
But it's not free speech when you are disrupting everybody else's opportunity to speak.
This is free speech, everyone. This is free speech. That is not free speech. This is people constructing narratives that are openly hypocritical. I'm sorry. The incredible hypocrisy.
You know,
tell
maybe
me
you could
John
actually...
Foster Dulles went with Eleanor Roosevelt to bring this Declaration of the Rights of Man. John Foster Dulles was involved with the CIA.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're brilliant in your historical cherry picking.
The Pinochet regime.
Please,
listen. Could you please inform me about the United States involvement in these historical things?
We're going to move on
Listen, will you denounce Joe Biden?
Will you denounce
Joe Biden's
human rights, not just yelling about it? So, Frank, I want to turn to you because you are from Uganda, and Uganda's 2023 Anti-Homosexuality Act criminalizes LGBTI conduct in Uganda.
To push us to World War III.
Oh,
Do you
please.
understand? It's not about Israel and Palestine. It's not football. This isn't football. It's not Team America.
Well, I'm sorry, but some of us are on Team America despite our flaws and our problems.
Yes, that's me.
And some of us, every person on this stage.
You have to stop right now. You have to stop.
Or what?
Wait,
I'm going to exercise my
Every person on this stage has risked their life, their income, their reputation, their careers, and what have you done other than stand up and disrupt?
I need you to
I will put my record and these women's records and Frank's records against you any day of the year.
I'll respond. What I have done is I have asked Hillary Rodham Clinton to denounce the president's openly warmongering, suicidal, idiotic speech.
And I've given my answer. I will not do that. So that's the end of our conversation. But I'll still meet you outside. But you're done
right now.
Okay, Frank. Frank has...
Wow. Following the confrontation, mainstream media channels ranging from Newsweek to the Washington Examiner spotlighted this unanticipated lapse from Clinton. But looking beyond this singular episode, it's symbolic of a wider issue, the Democrat leadership's seeming incapacity to address and confront pivotal issues with straightforwardness we saw during Trump's era. In a world where everything is dissected and magnified, leaders ought to be mindful that their reactions aren't just fleeting moments but contribute significantly to their lasting legacies. Trump, despite facing a barrage of criticism, remained undeterred in his beliefs, always welcoming challenges and dialogues. In contrast, Clinton's outburst at Columbia will linger as a blemish, serving as a stark reminder of a lost opportunity for constructive discussion. While the intention of the Columbia gathering was to laud the UDHR, its legacy will now be intertwined with this moment of confrontation, throwing light on Clinton, Biden, and the overarching state of the Democrat leadership. For a sizable chunk of our populace, this incident reiterated a longing for the clear-cut and determined leadership symbolic of the Trump years. Now, to contextualize and emphasize, let's pause and reflect. A former Secretary of State, a past presidential candidate, someone who's been on the global stage for decades, ought to have the wherewithal to address a straightforward question. And yet, what do we witness? A veritable meltdown over a legitimate inquiry about President Biden's questionable foreign policy maneuvers, moves that have destabilized our once secure international stature. Under Trump, we reveled in a Middle Eastern peace, watched Russia remain distant and saw China act without overt hostility. But with Biden's helming the ship, he's not only requesting massive funds for Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine, but seems to be amalgamating these complex geopolitical entities without much foresight. And while Clinton may want to preach her perspective from her podium, she failed to uphold the very essence of diplomacy when confronted with an innocent yet incisive query. It's not presidential. The imperative now for the good of our republic is for Clinton to introspect, recalibrate, and perhaps, as some suggest, take a step back. As we wrap up tonight's report, the incident in Colombia provides more than just a momentary blip in our 24-hour news cycle. It reveals the stark contrast between a genuine concern from the public and the apparent fragility of a seasoned politician. The man who confronted Clinton demonstrated the sort of tenacity and demand for accountability that every American should embody. Instead of addressing his genuine concerns about our nation's direction, Clinton's reaction was unfortunately one of defensiveness and disdain. It's an undeniable testament to the leadership crisis that looms large in certain corridors of power. So let's applaud the courage of those who dare to question, to challenge, and hold our leaders accountable. For in such moments, the true nature of leadership, or the lack thereof, is laid bare for all to see. Angie, what is the latest on Biden's standing in the recent Harvard-Harris poll?
The latest Harvard-Harris poll doesn't paint a rosy picture for President Biden. Top issues for Americans: inflation, immigration, and jobs. A significant 32% of voters are alarmed by rising inflation, and they're disappointed. Biden's response? Just a 40% approval. Immigration's right up there, too, with 27% concerns about the ongoing southern border situation. Biden's handling? Well, a mere 39% think he's got it right. As for economy and job market, only a quarter of respondents feel Biden's steering it correctly, even though he touted big promises about rebuilding. Beyond these, gun control, drug crisis, terrorism threats, growing national debt, and health care are also on the nation's mind. It's time for a serious reevaluation. Americans were promised change and a hopeful future. Dive deeper, tap the link below. A late development from Trump's legal team tonight. Gary?
Welcome to the Next News Network. I'm Gary Franchi, and breaking as we come on air tonight, former President Donald Trump is taking a bold stand against what many see as a continuous witch hunt against him. His attorneys have dropped a game-changing motion that could put an end to Special Counsel Jack Smith's relentless pursuit. Believe me, folks, by the end of this special report, you'll see just how vital this moment is in our great republic's history, and you don't want to miss our final thought, which cuts to the core of why this story is crucial for every American. Now, folks, let's kick off our in-depth analysis. Think about the top-notch news we serve you daily as a fortified structure. Behind that structure are our dedicated sponsors, the pillars holding it up. Supporting them is like reinforcing those pillars, ensuring the news keeps coming. Just like how age can erode our muscles, neglect can weaken our mission. And that's where our sponsors step in. With their innovative products, like the one that targets age-related muscle loss, they keep us robust and in shape. So when you back them, you power us. Check out gainwithgary.com for that muscle boost. Now let's dive in. The clock was ticking close to midnight when Trump's legal eagles made their move. According to the Washington Post, they claim the charges against the former president are vague and legally flawed. They're stressing one clear message. Trump had no hand in the violence during the January 6 events. And why? Because he's not even charged with inciting any of it. Defense attorneys Todd Blanche, John Lauro, Emily Bove, and Gregory Singer are making it crystal clear, folks, Trump was not the puppet behind the Capitol attacks on January 6, thus bringing up such actions in the indictment irrelevant and possibly damaging. Now here's where things get even more compelling. The defense team asserts that the indictment attempts to criminalize political speech and advocacy, which is at the very heart of our First Amendment. The plot thickens as the motion suggests that this entire prosecution might just be a retaliation against Trump's various legal decisions. Remember that unforgettable moment in Iowa? Trump boldly stated, "They're worried that they are going to indict me right into the White House." Watch.
But crooked Joe Biden and the radical left have weaponized law enforcement to arrest their leading political opponent. Nothing like that's ever happened before. This is high-level election interference. They want to damage me so that when you go to the poll, well, I don't know. And it happens a little bit like these maniacs back there. Trump is facing indictment. This is a Biden indictment. This was done by the Biden White House. This is not an indictment. This is a Biden. I challenge the election. I challenge. And we're releasing proof more and more. I want this to go. I want that challenge to go because they don't have a chance of winning. Think of it. Think of it. We challenge the election. Every Democrat challenged the 2016 election. We challenge the election, and they indict you for that. Biden has boxes by the thousands, that he wasn't president, so he wasn't covered by the Presidential Records Act. That's meant for this. I did nothing wrong at all. In fact, my boxes, it was secure. Everything was good. This guy, he sent them to Chinatown, to Penn, to Delaware, to all of them. He had somebody, the Corvette, in his garage, which was leaking with a garage door. You can cut those doors open with a scissor. They're the kind of door, you buy them for like $200 on television, right? That's the door security. And Biden had a son who happened to be in that house. He stayed in that house. But you know where they had they had a lot of them? In a place called Chinatown. A lot of boxes were in Chinatown, and now it turns out that they moved in and out of Chinatown. And, when you see what they do, it's just terrible. But it's, that's a two-way street. That's a dangerous thing they've unleashed, a really dangerous thing. I wonder if my father would be proud. I got indicted 4 times in the last 12 minutes. I heard we were getting 2 more, but I heard the DOJ called, no, don't do it, because we've gone up in the polls every time I got indicted. Because the people understand it. Don't do it! No more. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't indict that son of a bitch. Don't indict him anymore. This is killing us. We're going to indict him right into the White House. Don't.
Love that guy. Well, some J6 participants might have tried similar defense angles and failed. Trump might have a more solid foundation. Why? Because he's always called for peace. He's even gone on record during the riots urging for calm. March 24th is when the trial is set. If convicted, Trump could be looking at a staggering 55 years behind bars. Yet, in classic Trump fashion, he's turning challenges into opportunities. In New Hampshire, he jokingly mentioned that the polls rise with every indictment. He said, I go up in the polls every time I get indicted, he declared, hinting at the potential blunder of his opposition by noting that they might just indict him into the White House. And he made another bold statement. He said, I'm not scared of jail. I don't mind being Nelson Mandela. Watch.
Those people have no problem. If you want to challenge the result of an election, they hound you. Look what happened this weekend with 2 good people. They hound them and they scare them but we don't get scared. We don't get scared. I'll tell you what, I don't mind being Nelson Mandela because I'm doing it for a reason. I'm doing it for a reason.
Diving deeper, the Constitution's language seems to be on Trump's side, as lawyers claim. They argue that a president who's been impeached but not convicted by Congress cannot be subject to criminal prosecution. Adding to the defense's ammunition is the fact that prosecutors haven't shown that Trump's election claims were deceptive. Trump, like every American, had the First Amendment right to voice his opinion on the election. His lawyers rightly point out that to claim Trump alone managed to deceive well-informed individuals by expressing his viewpoint is, well, a stretch. Already, Smith seems to be treading lightly, even if pulling back parts of his expansive case. As we piece together this puzzle, one can't help notice a pattern of unyielding efforts against Trump. And here's something that you've got to see, a revealing expose from the Ultra MAGA Party. Watch.
I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president, colluding with foreign powers, putting profits over people.
If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch.
Dividing us in ways we haven't seen in generations. We can do better than this. I believe that this president is incompetent. I believe that this president is ill-equipped to serve in the highest office of this land. And I believe that he is an embarrassment to all that we stand for. He should be charged with obstructing justice.
What's your understanding of what your son was doing? That doesn't pass the smell test.
So look, if you want to talk about problems, let's talk about Trump's family. 5 former heads of the CIA say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
I believe that the President of these United States can be indicted for criminal offenses.
Joe Biden. Joe Biden has a deep, steep, and successful record over a long, long time.
Because we believe that he's engaged in a pattern and practice of money laundering.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life.
Laundering the money from foreign governments. You may be wondering what you could possibly do to change it. The answer is simple.
The answer is simple. Ladies and gentlemen, as we draw to a close on today's report, it's essential to recognize the strategic brilliance of this motion put forth by former President Donald Trump and his legal team. While the outcome remains to be seen, the audacity and wisdom to take such an approach could well be the turning point in this prolonged witch hunt. This move serves as a message to the crooked politicians. Our republic will not stand for weaponizing the judiciary. The American people are observant, discerning, and increasingly tired of political games. While victory is not yet in hand, the hope surges with each well-played move, showing that the pursuit of truth and justice will always find its path. May this motion stand as a beacon of hope, signaling the end of vindictive politics and the start of a more transparent, honest, and just era. America deserves nothing less. Angie, you've got some startling figures on immigration versus U.S. births. What have you got?
Under Biden, the U.S. has seen a dramatic increase in migrants, surpassing births and new grads. Over 4 million migrants took advantage of our borders this year, as per federal data. Shockingly, 400,000 of the 3.67 million births were to undocumented migrants. With 3 million grads facing job competition, ordinary Americans are feeling the heat. Homes are out of reach and many resorting to cars for shelter. Yet migrants swiftly get housing, often funded by our government. Sneakily, this data was released on a quiet Saturday, and another 1.5 million unseen entrants, and that's 5 million in a year. With real wages dropping, the American dream under Biden seems more distant. Dive deeper, tap the link below. Big revelations from Camp Trump today. Gary?
Ladies and gentlemen, in the political arena, loyalty and trust can be as fleeting as the wind. Imagine you've stood by someone's side, fought battles together, shared victories and faced defeats. But what happens when the whispers of a grand betrayal start to circulate? When those you thought were your closest allies might have turned against you? As we unpack today's explosive revelations, we're delving into what might just be the most significant breach of trust in recent political memory. Could Mark Meadows, once standing shoulder to shoulder with former President Donald Trump, truly be the orchestrator of such a betrayal? Stay with us for the whole report. You don't want to miss our final thoughts on this one. As we dive deep into today's political intricacies, a brief interlude. The clarity we aim to provide daily, well, it's made possible by our steadfast sponsors. They're not just brands, they're our foundation. And your support for them is a nod to our dedication. And speaking of preparedness, in this ever-unpredictable world, My Patriot Supply is offering 25% off of their emergency food kit. Equip your family for uncertainties. Hurry, because the offer is limited. Check out preparewithgary.com. And now on to our special report. And diving right into the topic, the political landscape of our great republic has been shaken with the latest revelations surrounding former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Recent reports suggest that Meadows was granted protection by special counsel Jack Smith in exchange for his testimony in the federal case against former President Donald Trump. The case pertains to Trump challenging the results of the 2020 election. Trump supporters have held suspicions about Meadows possibly collaborating with Smith, and this mistrust has become so profound that some individuals even steer clear of engaging with the former White House aide. The underlying fear? They believe their communications might be under surveillance by agencies like the FBI. ABC News, in its report, emphasizes that Meadows communicated with Trump multiple times after the conclusion of the 2020 presidential election, asserting that widespread voter fraud claims were unsubstantiated. The former North Carolina congressman is also reported to have mentioned to officials that Trump's declaration of victory mere hours post the election polls closing on November 3rd of 2020 was not accurate. Directly quoting him, he stated, "Obviously, we didn't win." Meadows' commitment to the nation and its institutions appears unwavering despite his disagreements with Trump's perspective on the election outcome. He is noted as saying he didn't resign his position, prioritizing a smooth transition of power even if it meant going against Trump's narratives of election fraud. The timeline of events reveals that Meadows received a subpoena in January, and further details from ABC News confirm that he had at least 3 discussions with the special counsel's team this year. But here's the crucial part. He's only appeared once before a federal grand jury, and that was post his immunity deal. With his immunity order in place, any evidence provided by Meadows in a federal court stands safeguarded from being used against him. In August, Trump faced a 4-count indictment from the Justice Department. The core of this indictment centered on allegations that Trump obstructed the peaceful transfer of power by disseminating knowingly false information regarding voter fraud. This misinformation, according to authorities, galvanized hundreds of thousands of his supporters, culminating in the Capitol siege on January 6th. Outside the courtroom, Trump expressed his viewpoint on the case. He highlighted the credibility or lack thereof of one of the witnesses, noting the individual's history as a convicted felon who served time for deceit. Watch.
Mr. President, what do you think about the testimony by Well, he's proven to be a liar. That's been proven very loudly, clearly. He's a felon, convicted felon for lying, went to jail for lying, and this is their only witness. When you think about it, it's pretty amazing. We've proven that the numbers that they talk about are much higher than they ever imagined. In fact, they don't really know what to do because the numbers are much higher, not even the same. It is subjective always, but it's turned out to be not only subjective, the numbers are much higher, and the statements were actually very conservative. The financial statements that we used were very conservative. In addition to that, we have a disclaimer which says go out and do your own due diligence. Don't necessarily believe what you read. In fact, don't believe what you read. Here are the financials. You can look at them, you can do whatever you want with them, but do not do anything in terms of considering them without analysis or due diligence. And that's very clear. The other thing is that, as you know, and I say it again and again because I've never seen anything like it, I don't get a jury. This was a trial should have never been brought, but if we had a jury, it would have been fair, at least, even if it was a somewhat negative jury, because no negative jury would vote against me. But this judge will, because this judge is a very partisan judge, with a person who's very partisan sitting alongside of him, perhaps even much more partisan than he is. So we are doing very well. The facts are speaking very loud. He's a totally discredited witness, and you haven't seen anything yet. This goes on for a long time, but he's a totally discredited witness. On the fact that a statute was used to sue Donald Trump that's never been used before. Think of it. They used a statute that's never been used before because they didn't want to have a jury, and because this statute doesn't allow a jury, and because this statute discusses things that are much, much different than anybody would think. This is really from a fascist country. That's what they're doing. It's election interference. They're doing it for that reason. They're doing it because they're losing in the polls. They're doing it because our country is going to hell. Our country has become a laughing stock all over the world. And this is why they do this and other litigation. But we will win. Ultimately, we will win because that's the facts are on our side to a level that nobody's ever seen anything like it before. This was a case that never should have been brought, but certainly it was a case that should have had a jury. And we don't have a jury. We don't have the option of even thinking about a jury. And we have a very biased group, and we have a corrupt attorney general that brought this case so that she could be elected governor. And that failed. She didn't get elected governor, and she continues on with the case. Thank you very much. Do you see an appeal from that?
The former president argues that the numbers being bandied about are inflated compared to the conservative financial statements his team provided. Trump emphasized the need for the public to remain discerning and vigilant. Expressing discontent over the absence of a jury, Trump alluded to the potentially fairer trial had he been given one. A pointed remark about the pressing judge's potential political inclinations didn't go amiss. Officials bring forth another intriguing detail from Meadows. It's reported that during the Capitol riot, Trump reached out to Representative Kevin McCarthy, commenting on the heightened emotions of the rioters compared to McCarthy. However, it's also noted that Trump exhibited visible distress upon learning of the unfortunate demise of Ashley Babbitt, a Trump supporter, at the hands of a Capitol police officer. The focus then shifts to the legal predicaments faced by Meadows. Currently, the 64-year-old has not been indicted by Smith. However, he faces legal challenges in Georgia, where he, alongside Trump and 17 others, have been indicted under the RICO law. The charges assert that they attempted to alter the 2020 election results in that state. In response, Trump took to Truth Social, bringing to light the immense pressures co-defendants like Meadows face, potentially influencing them to testify against him. He posits the idea that this immunity deal might just be the ticket for Meadows to voice bad things about his former superior. In his post, Trump articulates the daunting repercussions Meadows might evade through these testimonies, encompassing potential imprisonment, financial woes, and familial estrangement. In Trump's words, while many might opt for such a deal, he remains hopeful that Meadows isn't one of those individuals. Insider sources revealed that Meadows' testimonies have repeatedly distanced himself from Trump's stolen election narrative. This further solidifies the complications the former president faces as these trials progress. In the world of politics, allegiances can shift, but a grand betrayal? That cuts deep. Today's revelations challenge the very fabric of trust that holds teams, parties, and movements together. If Mark Meadows' actions are confirmed as they appear, it doesn't just signal a personal rift between him and the former president, it underlines the fragility of relationships in the political spectrum. When an ally becomes a potential adversary, it forces us to question what is the true price of loyalty, and how easily can it be sold. As we reflect on today's revelations, let's remember the importance of steadfastness and integrity in our republic's foundations. For if there's a lesson to be learned here, it's that betrayal, especially at the highest echelons of power, leaves lasting ripples in its wake. Angie, covering a surprising turn regarding Coca-Cola's donation. Angie?
Coca-Cola is in the spotlight. Their open support for Black Lives Matter highlighted by a hefty $500,000 donation from Sprite, a Coca-Cola subsidiary, was once proudly displayed on their website. However, it's been discreetly removed. This change seems to coincide with BLM associates showing support for Hamas, especially following confrontational events in Israel. Texas Senator Ted Cruz swiftly observed this omission. He's taken to social media demanding an explanation. He's urging Coca-Cola to be transparent. The controversy grew when BLM Chicago shared a provocative image which was connected to a technique employed by Hamas in the past. These raised eyebrows and stirred discussions. Meanwhile, Cruz isn't stopping at Coca-Cola. He's challenging other corporate behemoths like Amazon and Apple regarding their BLM donations. Dive deeper, tap the link below. That's all the news I have for you tonight. Now back to Gary with your comments from the comments section.
And now for the segment you've been waiting for, the comments section. Let's dive straight into what you, our loyal viewers, have been saying on our latest video, Trump's shocking House Speaker announcement revealed. Starting with Carlos, who said Trump is the only candidate who can restore respect and dignity to the U.S. people and the world, period. Carlos, you've hit the nail right on the head. It's that straightforward leadership and unwavering dedication to America's greatness that sets Trump apart. Then we have Justice 2255 proclaiming, yes, make him speaker. We absolutely need to raise up this black Republican. We want him. We will be tough. Well, I couldn't agree more. It's about time we see fresh, tough leaders who aren't afraid to stand for American values. And yes, rising up a black Republican could send a powerful message. Jeanette Porter chimes in, I do not think Trump meant that as a joke because he is right. Only Jesus. Janet, sometimes the truth is said in jest, and when Trump speaks, even if it's with a hint of humor, there's often deep truth behind his words. Now, Patricia here has a different perspective, and she believes everyone thinks Byron Donalds is going to be Speaker and everyone thinks Trump is going to pick a woman as his VP pick. Well, I think his VP pick is going to be Byron Donalds. Byron has been with Trump at every one of his presidential rallies and stands right alongside him. Patricia, that's a sharp observation. You might be onto something because I've kind of felt the same way. Byron's presence and alignment with Trump's vision can't be overlooked. And finally, Samuel Hernandez, 9683, has some praise for Byron as well. He states, like Byron Donald giving that young man a chance, he has a great mind and understand what's at stake. Make him House Speaker. Well, Samuel, giving young leaders like Byron a chance could be the key to rejuvenating American politics, so I'm right there with you. But we do know exactly who is the new House Speaker, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But thank you for your comments, America. It's the heart of our republic to have open dialogue and to hear from the very people who make this nation great. So keep the conversations going, and as always, I'm here to amplify your voice. Now let's see who's caught our attention tonight in our Looking at You segment. Tonight, we're focusing on none other than the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, the new Speaker. Today, he gave a speech to his colleagues, a sentiment that he wants every American to be privy to. Take a look.
I want to tell all my colleagues here what I told the Republicans in that room last night. I don't believe there are any coincidences in a matter like this. I believe that Scripture, the Bible, is very clear. That God is the one that raises up those in authority. He raised up each of you, all of us. And I believe that God has ordained and allowed each one of us to be brought here for this specific moment in this time. This is my belief. I believe that each one of us has a huge responsibility today to use the gifts that God has given us to serve the extraordinary people of this great country, and they deserve it.
Amen. Mike Johnson believes there are no accidents in politics, no mere coincidences. He's standing firm on the idea that our nation's leaders, every single one, are chosen and elevated by God. In his own words, God raises up those in authority. That means not just him, not just his fellow Republicans, but every leader that sits in our halls of power. But here's the part that stood out. Johnson says that he genuinely believes that they've been placed in their positions for this specific moment in time. And why is that important? Because it underscores a sense of purpose, a responsibility that every leader should feel. And according to him, they are all there to serve you, the American people, using the gifts they've been endowed with. Now, why does this matter to you, the citizens of this great republic? Well, it's about more than just faith or personal beliefs. It's about accountability. If a leader truly believes they're placed in authority by divine will, then there's a weight, an immense responsibility on their shoulders. It means our leaders like Johnson should be working tirelessly using their God-given talents to better the lives of Americans to uphold the principles of this great republic. So next time you see Speaker Mike Johnson or any of our leaders, remember this: they believe that they're chosen for this moment. They've acknowledged the responsibility, and it's up to us, the American people, to ensure they stay true to that purpose. Tonight, we've looked at stories that truly shape our nation. From the unexpected Babies for Trump moment, showing that even in the midst of political warfare, a simple gesture can bridge divides, to the escalating conflict in the Middle East. We've seen the Biden administration struggle to handle the ever-growing tensions with Americans in potential danger. Hillary Clinton's recent avoidance at Columbia University underscores the contrast between the Trump and Biden administrations. It's not just about foreign policy, it's about leadership and addressing the concerns of the American people. The legal battles facing President Trump shed light on the ever-present political tug-of-war. His defense stands firm against what many see as mere political retaliation. But with Mark Meadows now in the spotlight, it remains to be seen where this legal maze will lead. We've delved into the recent results of polls, some shocking, that reflect Americans' concerns. From immigration to inflation, it's clear that under the Biden administration, the promise of a hopeful future appears to be on some pretty shaky ground. And then there's the surprising turn of events with Coca-Cola and the current social discourse. So why does all of this matter? Because it's about our nation's future. It's about understanding where we are and where we are headed. As Americans, it's essential to stay informed, ask tough questions, and demand the answers. For it's only through clarity and unity that we can navigate the complexities of our world and ensure a prosperous future for all. All right, folks, that's a wrap for tonight. A huge thank you to Angie for the stellar news briefs this evening and valuable insights as always. And to everyone who tuned in and joined our lively live chat, thank you for being a part of the conversation. It's heartening to see America engaged. Now think about the world that we've discussed tonight. Just like we don't want to be caught unprepared in political or global shifts, you shouldn't be caught unprepared in your financial future. Our friends at Noble Gold Investments, they get it. They've made investing in precious metals as straightforward as our conversations here. Listen to this. Noble Gold's team, upfront, clear, helped me understand my options. Their guidance felt genuine, no sales gimmicks. With their expertise, I finally feel in control of my financial future. Feeling a bit uncertain about the economy? Noble Gold Investments offers a way for you to diversify with gold and silver. As a token of appreciation, they're gifting a free 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful bullion coin for qualifying accounts. They've got an impressive A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and rave reviews. Check them out at nextnewsgold.com. That's the gold standard that I trust. So we've had a packed show, and your engagement makes all the difference. Share the word. Tell a friend about our discussions here. I'm Gary Franchi. Remember, I am not here to make you a follower. I aim to inspire you to be a leader in your community. Have a great night, America, and we'll see you tomorrow.